Section 21 of the Book of Divine Consolation of the Blessed Angela of Foligno. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Treatise II, Chapter 20, of Prayer, of the which there are three kinds, corporal, mental, and supernatural, outside of which it is not possible to find God. Forasmuch, therefore, as the knowledge of God uncreate and of Christ crucified is needful, and seeing that without it we cannot transform our minds in His love, it behooveth us to read diligently in that aforesaid book of life, that is to say, the life and death of Jesus Christ. And whereas this reading, or rather knowledge, cannot possibly be acquired without devout, pure, humble, fervent, attentive, and constant prayer, not with the lips alone, but with the heart and mind and all the strength, something must be said of prayer as well as of the book of life. It is through prayer and in prayer that we find God. There are divers kinds of prayers, but in these three kinds alone is God to be found. The first is corporal, the second mental, and the third supernatural. Corporal prayer is that which is always accompanied by the sound of words and by bodily exercises, such as kneeling down, asking pardon, and bowing oneself. This kind do I continually perform, and the reason thereof is that, desiring to exercise myself in mental prayer, I was sometimes deceived and hindered therefrom by idleness and sleep, and did thus lose time. For this reason do I exercise myself in corporal prayer, and this corporal prayer leadeth me unto the mental. But this must be done very attentively. Therefore when thou sayest the Pater Noster, thou must consider well that which thou sayest, and not repeat it in haste in order to say it a certain number of times, as do those vain women who perform good deeds for a reward. Mental prayer is when the meditation of God filleth the mind so entirely that it thinketh on naught else save on God. But when some other reflection entereth into the mind, it asketh not that it should be mental prayer, because that prayer doth hinder the tongue from performing its office and cannot speak. So completely is the mind filled with God that it can concern itself with naught else, neither think of anything save of God. Hence from this mental prayer proceedeth the supernatural. Supernatural prayer is that during which the soul is so exalted by this knowledge, or meditation, or fullness of God, that it is uplifted above its own nature and understandeth more of God than it otherwise could naturally. And understanding, it knoweth. But that which it knoweth it cannot explain, because all that it perceiveth and feeleth is above its own nature. In these three degrees of prayer, therefore, man learneth to know God and himself. And knowing Him, he loveth Him, and loving Him, he desireth to possess Him. And this is the sign of love. For he who loveth not only a part of himself, but the whole, transformeth himself in the thing beloved. But because this transformation endureth not for ever, the soul seeketh and examineth all other means whereby it may transform itself in its beloved, in order that this union may be repeated. Wherefore must it be known that the divine wisdom hath ordered all things and given unto each its appointed place. For this reason hath the ineffable wisdom ordained that no man should attain unto mental prayer who hath not previously exercised himself in corporal prayer. Neither doth it permit the supernatural to be vouchsafed unto any person who hath not first performed both corporal and mental prayer. This orderly wisdom doth further desire that the prayers set apart for certain hours should be offered at the hours appointed, as is seemly and due. Excepting only if we be so hindered by the great joy of mental or supernatural prayer that the tongue is absolved from performing its office, or if because of grievous infirmity we are not able. In such a case, satisfaction may be offered, if possible, in mental quiet, with solitude and bodily solicitude, according as we are able. And God doth further desire that when we pray, we should do so with our whole attention. End of section 21.